Hi everyone, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a tarot spread tutorial, or a bit of a walkthrough of a tarot reading. This is a spread entitled Tent of Dreams. And it speaks more so to aspirations and goals that we have in life and attaining them, looking at all of the parts that go into them, and really thinking critically about what it takes to start something and really see it through to its culmination, and then deciding whether or not it's worth it. Is it really something that we want? And all of the bits that kind of go into it. So I constructed it more so in the shape of a circus tent. I thought it would be fun to give it a theme, as I usually do with these spreads. And as always, I hope that this can be useful or fun for somebody out there. If you want to add this to your repertoire of spreads or follow along and try it out, I'm going to be walking through how it operates and speaking to each of the positions. So before we get into that though, I thought I would speak maybe to the inspiration, or at least part of the inspiration for this spread, which is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is a book I just finished and absolutely loved. I also had read The Starless Sea, which I mentioned in a recent favorites video. So I think Erin Morgenstern is an amazing author. This book actually features tarot quite heavily. There's a circus, obviously, component to this book in the late Victorian period, it seems to be. And there is a fortune teller. There's this sort of mystical tarot aspect that gets incorporated throughout the book, and there are readings that take place within the book that I find to be actually really accurate, and there seems to be a lot of depth there, so it makes me think that Erin Morgenstern knows what she's talking about in terms of tarot, the occult, metaphysical things, all of those sorts of things. I think she actually has done quite a bit of research, or is at least very familiar with herself. So I would highly recommend this book for anybody out there who is a novel reader who likes fantasy. It has a bit of romance. There's an air of mystery to it. I actually like to pull cards, or will pull a card to try to predict the ending of a book. And for this one, I'd pulled the Eight of Coins, and I think it was actually really fitting in terms of what the ending wound up being. I don't want to give anything away. If you are out there and have read this, I'd be curious to know if you think that the Eight of Coins is a fitting card to describe the ending of this book. And if you decide to read this and you haven't yet and you get to the ending, I'd be curious to know if you think that this card's fitting. But I thought I would just share that tidbit. Without further ado, we'll get into the actual spread. So, as you can see, I wrote a little bit more for each position here. I wanted to thoroughly flesh it all out, but we'll begin right at the bottom with the Gateway of Wonders down here, the first spread position. This is really meant to be where you would perhaps enter the tent that is your dream in some way. So the way that I spoke to it and describe it here is the Gateway of Wonders, the entrance to your dream or aspiration, a liminal space, shows how you may enter or approach what you might expect, and the first interaction with the dream. So this is really sort of the precipice, or how you're going to start. So this would be something you maybe encounter just as you, I would say, begin your journey towards whatever this goal or dream is. I think it's great to maybe have something in mind that you want to look at. So say your dream is to have a certain career or a lifestyle, or you're looking to move to a certain location because you think it holds a lot of value for you, something like that. Maybe picking a goal. I think it could also be fun to maybe not have a goal in mind and see what the next goal on your horizon might be and what might be well suited to you, and it might get you thinking about something you want to get started. So there really is no exact method to the spread. You can use it in whatever way suits you most. I'll lay out the cards and speak to the spread positions as we go. So this is a sample reading, not necessarily meant for anybody in particular, but we will see what comes up and just use them and interpret them in a more instructional way, as opposed to actually interpreting the cards. So I'll try to lay them out in a way that fits within the frame. And I am using a Marseille tarot deck, mostly because in The Night Circus, the book, the deck featured is a Marseille, and it felt very fitting to use it. I find that there's something that feels almost more circus-like about the Marseille, so in my mind it seems really fitting. But of course, use whatever deck you'd like. Part of me actually wanted to make this a majors only spread, and then to use potentially the minors or court cards to add detail where I might lack some clarity. So you might want to go about it that way, but for this I'm just going to use the whole deck. But I do think it would be fun to make it a majors only spread and then potentially use the minors to add detail on things you're less sure about. So of course we start with that first one that I spoke to, the Gateway of Wonders. So this is really how we're approaching the goal or the aspirations. So maybe if you see something here that seems really intimidating, it might mean that, for example, the goal is a bit lofty, or that there are some sort of hang-ups or things that you have to get done before you can even begin. For example, if there were the High Priestess, I might think that I need to pass some sort of test or personal triumph before I'm able to enter. I might have to discover something for myself before I'm ready to take on this goal. If there was, for example, Justice, I might have some things that I need to tie up first before I'm more, I guess, physically able to embark on this. I might have to sort a few things out. If there's the Fool, that feels very welcoming. Maybe that means that I'm really already within whatever this is, that I'm very much welcomed and will almost fall into what my goal or dream is. So paying attention to the card that comes up here and what it speaks to. Is it something that feels difficult and guarded? Is it something that's trying to keep you out? So is it a struggle? Is it inviting? Is it a bit of a trap? Maybe it's the Devil and you feel like your goal might actually not be well suited to you, and that there's something sort of behind it and you feel like you'll get taken through, I would say, maybe a bit of a journey that you weren't anticipating. All of these things are great to consider. A lot of what this spread is meant to make you think about your goals, and at the end perhaps decide if it's worth going through and then what that might entail. So for this sample here, we've got the Queen of Swords. She appears a bit trepidatious. She has a sort of wary expression to her. She's facing the past. Her sword is up. She's guarding her stomach. I know there are many who speak to her potentially being pregnant in some way, or kind of covering that up. So I might think that there is something here that I kind of have to work through, or that it might not be a goal that I can just walk or waltz straight into. This might be something that I need to approach with a little bit of reverence and tact. It might be something that's slow going, and I might have to, for example, maybe look to my past. Maybe there are a few things still lingering that I need to, I would say, tie up the loose ends or figure them out before I feel completely comfortable proceeding toward whatever this goal is. So that might be something to consider. And then, of course, the Queen, sometimes in my mind at least here, feels very welcoming, but wary at the same time. So this would be like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So maybe this isn't the kind of goal that you can just start and get going and really hit the ground running. This is one where you kind of slowly but surely add a little bit until there's a level of comfort and rapport. Now, the second position we have in the spread is the left foundation. So for this one, we have one of 2 practical stakes that ground your world of wonders in reality. This one speaks to something you must leave behind, sacrifice, or not do in pursuing your dream. So I tried to make this all of the spreads, all of the positions fit with some aspect of the tent. So both of the 2 bottom ones are like the stakes that would keep the tent from flying away and keep it in place. Now the left one, which is more toward the past, speaks to something that we're leaving behind, something very practical that we either shouldn't do, that we should stop doing, that we should leave behind in the past. So here we've got the Lover. And so it looks like maybe there's a little bit of touch and go, there's decisions to be made. Maybe I was dilly-dallying, or whoever this speaks to is not really so great. They're a little bit indecisive in terms of moving forward. We can see that the Queen looks wary in regards to the past. She's facing this past situation where there seems to be a lot going on. So this would almost, to me, be like sort out the fluff, get rid of the extra things, anything that's sort of tempting you, or if you're spreading yourself thin and trying to allocate your energy toward too many other goals and projects, this one's going to require all that you have to offer in terms of I would say, the amount of time and physical labor that you have to commit to it. So this would say either commit fully or don't commit at all. Leave the extra things in the past. Now, for the right foundation, let's see, let me get this in frame. Much the counterpart to the left, this practical position describes a physical action or thing to do or adopt in pursuit of your aspiration. The do to the former, don't do. So this would be the exact opposite, something we want to begin doing to help us in a very practical way. So here we've got the Six of Cups. So I would say that this is something that you need to be more emotionally vested in. The fact that the cups here to me feel more like a channel. They create a very seamless stream. There's nothing that's obstructed. I would say getting rid of any emotional hang-ups and then acting from a place of feeling. So this would be more of an intuitive pursuit where I don't approach it as analytically. I would try to maybe perhaps allow myself to feel out what it is that I need to do next and act, and maybe instead of making lists of things I need to accomplish in a day to get towards this goal, I would have to do something that feels right on any given day that I know is going to further the ends to meet the means to achieve the goal. And so that's what I would see here and how I might interpret it. And feel free to pull more cards for clarity on any of these. So our fourth position is the left midpoint. And so for this, we have the left midpoint is slightly higher up. This midpoint indicates mental and emotional aspects which must be discarded in order to attain the goal. So all of the things on the left are usually past things that we're trying to leave, or at least something tied to the past. Here, we had the more practical thing we needed to leave in the past, so any other projects we might be allocating our time and energy to, but in a more mental and emotional way, a mindset. What do I need to abandon or sacrifice in order to make sure that this happens? So here we've got the Five of Cups. So I would say this feeling of this is more of like a feeling of loneliness and isolation in terms of the emotions in the heart. To me, it feels like there's something a bit disruptive about it. So I would say something to leave in the past would be any sort of hurt or spite you might be feeling towards somebody. If this is something that's more co-creative where other people are involved, but perhaps there's a history that's complicated, or there are things that are left unsaid, or you still feel something that is negative, or you feel like there's something to get off your chest that you're maybe burying deep within, I would say air out the dirty laundry, because it's not going to help if you're working with somebody on this project or needing to communicate with others, yet you still have some hard feelings. So this would say, get rid of it, otherwise this really isn't going to work out. It's going to have some dead emotional weight that's going to, I would say, cripple it in some way. Now, next we've got the right midpoint. And so for that, we have the opposite to the left. This position signals mindsets, ideas, and feelings to seek out, bring in, and consider in chasing your dream. So for this, we've got the Sun. And so as far as a mindset, this speaks volumes when compared to the left side, which was the Five of Cups. I think that this goal seems to be involving another person. Perhaps, say this was a business venture, for the sake of example, and there was a business partner that you knew well, that you had a personal relationship with in some way, whether it was familial or a friendship, it was platonic, maybe it was romantic. It would say maybe squash all of the sort of hard feelings, and then what we would want to do is usher in more, I would say, light relationships. So it's not to say that you need to necessarily have a deep vested connection with whoever this person is, but there does need to be some sort of amicable state where you can work together without anything being infringed upon, without there being anything that's not disclosed. So there needs to be total trust and honesty in the communication. There can't be anything that's left unsaid, no secrets between the people involved in whatever this goal or dream is. So that's what I'm seeing here. So we would want to seek out, I would say, truth and clarity. We would want there to be a lot of information that's put out in the open to anybody involved, so that everybody knows what they're getting into. Everybody has all the information at their disposal to make the decisions they need to make. And of course, asking that of others as well. So So next we've got the left ascendant. So we're getting to the higher point of the tent at this rate. Here we've got, let me move this up, a bit from your past that will follow you into your endeavors for good or ill. So this is a neutral card. It doesn't necessarily speak to anything we need to leave in the past. It's something that actually will follow you into this goal. Whether it's good or bad is yet to be seen, but it's good to account for something that we're going to bring along with us. So here we've got the 5 of coins. So as a sample reading, to me, this feels like a financial or business-driven endeavor already, and the 5 of coins being something from the past that's being brought in, this would make me think perhaps that this person has maybe some debt. They're not in the best financial situation, so maybe they're taking out a loan. So this is something where they have something that they're bringing in that is a little bit of a financial weight, or something that isn't going to be the easiest. It might serve to make things a little bit more slow going, which we might have seen here with the Queen of Swords, who's wary. She's not so sure she wants to go through with it. It's something you have to take on slowly, and when you don't have the financial means to go all in, you do have to proceed a bit more slowly. So this makes a lot of sense, along with the fact that we needed to practically leave a lot of the other avenues in the past. So if there were other financial, I would say, obligations, those were going to detract from whatever this symbolized. So leaving them in the past and allocating all of the financial resources to this project is going to make it more fruitful. But ultimately, there is going to be some sort of financial drawback where debt or a loan that needs to be taken out, or at least the fact that there isn't quite the amount of finances that are needed to fund this in its entirety. So that's something to consider. Now we move to the right ascendant. And so for this one, we've got an unexpected or unforeseen bit that you will encounter on your journey for good or bad. So another neutral card. So this might be a really pleasant surprise, something that we weren't expecting. It might also be a sort of hiccup or obstacle that we aren't currently aware of, that we aren't expecting to encounter. And I would say, if you see this and automatically know what it is, you might want to take more time with it, because clearly it's not so unexpected if you already can sort of immediately figure out what it's speaking to. Here we've got the 9 of Cups. So in many traditional tarot readings, the 9 of Cups would be considered a good omen. And I like how along the right side, we do have more of this emotional flow with even numbers, with cups, with relationships. And so it does seem that going forward, and the things that we do need to actually bring into the equation are looking a bit more positive, and it is more about how we feel and interact with others, as opposed to outside circumstances being stacked against us. This being something that's unexpected, to me, feels more positive. It does feel like perhaps maybe there's a benefactor of some sort, or the partnership that we are currently engaged in that perhaps is feeding into this business. Maybe it's a joint sort of thing where there's more than one person involved. Maybe there's more help or financial backing than one might expect. Perhaps this person can take on a lot more than we expect of them. Perhaps the relationship becomes improved to the point where they're able to interact with you and work and provide ideas that you hadn't maybe thought of before. So this, to me, and these two play really well together. So this is a nice, pleasant surprise that I think is a nice balancing point to the bit of the past that we aren't looking to bring into our present. So very interesting to weigh those against each other. And then finally, we reach the peak of the tent, the top where the star is seated. So I've called this the crux, basically where all points meet, or that sort of just center. So for this, we've got where you look your dream in the eye, and in the eye at its level and attain it is all up. Oh my gosh, I can't read my own handwriting. Where you look your dream in the eye at its level and attain it. Is it all that you hoped for? Not what you expected. The outcome contains the journey and much more. It is a very telling card in many ways. I couldn't read it through the viewfinder, so I had to actually kind of take the time to look at the page, but that's what it speaks to. So this is really the card that's going to say, this is likely where this venture is going to go, how you're going to feel about it. If it all coalesces, if it doesn't, is it going to feel as good as you thought it would? Is it something maybe that once you've actually gotten there, you're not as happy with? So of course, this is something to predict or at least forecast a goal you might have. So if you don't get a card you like here, that might be something to pause and consider and reevaluate. If it's more neutral or it's just a complex card, then perhaps you want to try to get a better understanding of what's going on and what feeds into all of it. And then if it's a positive one, maybe, or it feels positive, that might be a go-ahead to pursue the goal because it's something that's well suited to you. So for this, we've got the Chariot. So of course, a very strong energy. To me, this would be a sign that this endeavor is something that's really important to the querent, that it's something that they likely are very passionate about. And so to me, this almost feels like an open-ended statement, like the top isn't actually the top of the tent, that perhaps there's more to come. So this would almost be like a false ceiling or a compartment, or we would have to open things up and expand. So this is somebody who's not going to be satisfied when they reach the end, who's going to want to go further than what they've achieved. So constantly striving and achieving. And there are, of course, pros and cons to always pining for more and wanting more from your endeavors. There's the fact that it's nice that there's always a goal, that you're always improving and achieving, but also the fact that there may not be a sense of satisfaction in getting to where they thought there would be some satisfaction. This also makes me think that there's a lot more tied up in this endeavor than I think the person anticipates. There's a lot more that goes into it in terms of all that they have to invest emotionally, mentally, physically, in terms of their life. So this is more of a project that's on a grander scale than just, say, a small pipe dream or something that's on their bucket list. To me, this is something that's going to become quite the project. So that's something to consider, but I would say, by and large, this feels positive. So that's sort of how the tent is constructed, our way in, the foundations that we have to consider in a practical sense, the mental aspects of what we're trying to leave behind and trying to bring in or usher in, and then the ascending points, things that are kind of neutral, but that balance each other out, something from our past and something that in the future we're likely to encounter that we might not expect, and where that all leads. So I hope that this was helpful. I think it's important for us all to consider our dreams and aspirations in life and to think about how it is we're going to get to them. I think the more time we mentally allocate toward our goals, the more likely we are to achieve them. If we think about practical steps we need to take, we're more likely to actually take those steps as opposed to just thinking about our goals and letting them sit. So I hope that this was helpful for anybody out there who wanted to follow along. Let me know what you thought, if you enjoyed this or if you didn't, or anything like that, or if you tried it and what the outcome was like for you. I'd also be curious to know about if anybody has read The Night Circus. I got a few comments in my recent favorites video that spoke to people who really enjoyed this book, and if it's one that you think you might be interested in, I highly recommend it. I hope you are all well. Like and subscribe if this was fun or interesting, and until next time, bye.